They didn't look like they had a clear and obvious game plan to beat the New England Patriots. That's why I'm not terribly shook up about it. I feel like the majority of Titans fans are kind of like, yeah, just get me to the bye week. Didn't necessarily expect them to win. Would have been a pleasant surprise if they did. Mike Vrabel always has a good approach to playing Bill Belichick teams. That was his first career loss to Bill on Sunday. But it hurts worse, or it feels worse, because they had the opportunity to win. And again, for the second straight week, they just kind of threw up on themselves. And it's multi-layered. We're going to certainly talk about the quarterback because I know that's a big topic of conversation today. But I think Mike Vrabel summarized it last night when we spoke to him in the post-game press conference. And again, we'll have Mike Vrabel's Monday presser for you at noon. I thought Mike kind of summed it up well with where they're at right now and how this game kind of got out of hand, because it was very much able to be in hand. But with the way that they had penalties on special teams, with the fact that in the last two games, they have turned the ball over 9 times and have not gained a single takeaway on defense. So it's not just one side of the ball. And yesterday, it was all three. So this was Mike Vrabel after the game when asked for his reaction on the loss.
I think you're always obviously disappointed and frustrated when you lose. We did some good things. We did some obviously things that are going to get you beat, and that it is somewhat frustrating. But can't go on the road, especially against a good team, and do those types of things and have penalties and start drives with on the 10-yard line and penalties on special teams, turnovers. So you don't have to look too hard on why we lost.
Mike Vrabel rarely sounds defeated, but deflated is probably the better word, and no pun intended, given that they just played at New England. And ironically enough, Tom Brady bailed them out in Indianapolis in a big way yesterday as far as playoffs and divisional implications are concerned. But what Mike Vrabel is alluding to, look no further than the first drive with how this game started, where the Titans are able to start with the ball. They very quickly go 3 and out. They start before the drive even begins with a total of 37 yards of penalty, or 37 penalty yards against them for Nick DeZubner's holding. You have illegal formation on the punt, which I'm still trying to figure out how exactly you can have an illegal formation on a punt. And I guess the answer is just you got a bunch of new dudes out there that aren't familiar with your special team schemes. I don't know what the answer to that is. But you lose 37 yards right out the gate on that first drive, all while going 3 and out, and Ryan Tannehill getting sacked. Not necessarily a bad play by the offensive line. I thought David Quessenberry did a nice job on Matt Judon, but it was a coverage sack. You go back and look at it. The quarterback didn't have anybody open, so instead of stepping up in the pocket like like most quarterbacks do, Ryan Tannehill, it seemed like he was backing out of the pocket to try and move around, extend the play, and let somebody come open. And, of course, that didn't happen. So you have, obviously, the 4 total turnovers. You have all of these things, and yet at the half, which drives you crazy, I'm sure. At the half, you're looking at this and saying, it's a 3-point game. All of these things go wrong. And, of course, the turnovers, there was one fumble in the 2-minute drill for Dontrell Hilliard. He made up for it, though, of course, with that 68-yard touchdown. And then the Deontay Foreman is the one that just nuked you. You had nothing after that. The fourth one, Kari Blossingame later on, and I know Ryan Tannehill threw an interception on 4th and 2, and the Patriots are on the Patriots goal line, basically. But there's just so many different ways that they had to win this game, and that's why it kind of doesn't feel great. Now, I don't think that yesterday was a complete wash, And I'm not necessarily somebody that you would qualify as an eternal optimist. I think that you're realistic about where they are. You are realistic about the fact that they have now played more players and had on their roster more players than any NFL team in the last 28 years. The last two teams to field 84 total players, which was the previous record before the Titans broke it yesterday by 2. The last two teams to have 84 players that have dressed for them during a season. And by the way, that's during an entire season. Jimmy Wyatt had this stat of TennesseeTitans.com. It was the 2019 Miami Dolphins who went 5-11. And again, those injuries over an entire season. So you got the 19 Dolphins, 5-11 on the year. And then last year, coming off the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, which of course they lost, the San Francisco 49ers, which had all kinds of hope and promise and potential, in 2020, they had 84 players due to injury end up dressing for them. They went 6-10 off of a Super Bowl run in the 2019 season. Those are the two teams that previously held the record. The Titans have broken it by 2 through 12 weeks. Now, you got the bye at a timely moment. And I don't think we put it to a poll. Lucas did. Where has a fan base ever been more grateful or excited to see a bye week? Because this is, I mean, it's borderline celebration at this point. Because you just don't have dudes to go out there, or guys haven't been here long enough, because not only are the guys that you brought in getting hurt, but the depth guys under them are getting hurt. So you're out there with a collection of wide receivers that I'm standing in the tunnel in Gillette Stadium. And you take the pregame videos, you tweet it out for Titans fans to look at, to feel like you're in the stadium with us, basically. And so you set the scene. And you're waiting for every player or every position group to do their normal entrance. They all come out at the same time each and every week. It goes returners and fullbacks. It goes centers and quarterbacks. Then you have the wide receivers. And so you're waiting for the wide receivers to make the turn, and there's 3 of them because Chester Rogers came out with the return group. There's 3 wide receivers playing for the Titans outside of Chester. And it's Nick Westbrook-Akina, wide receiver 1. It's Cody Hollister, who has been here before but has been on and off this team in the last couple of years. And it's Dez Fitzpatrick, who I'm not sure just how seriously to take him yet. I think that you're going to give him more time, but again, this is a 4th-round pick this year that couldn't make your active roster in the first place and was most recently seen getting chewed out by his wide receivers coach because he had to go through drills multiple times and wasn't getting the message. There are just too many things at this point to overcome. And what it all centers back to is that this team goes as Ryan Tannehill goes. So when we come back, and I want to hear from you on this, 615-737-1045, what is the ceiling of Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans? You're going to hear from him. You'll hear from Taylor Lewan, Jeff Simmons as well. What is the ceiling of Ryan Tannehill as quarterback of this franchise? Jump in. We'll tell you what our opinion is on it. Coming up next, I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone. 4th and 2. Desperation plays. Buck Reising back here with you till 1 o'clock. That is, of course, Mike Keith and Coach Dave McGinnis on the call of the Titans' loss to the New England Patriots yesterday in Foxborough. I have just returned from Boston this morning, and I feel like Titans fans are excited for the bye week too. I know the team certainly needs it. But, I mean, just off that play alone. So, obviously, you're in 4-down territory. The 4th and 2 play call, and I thought it was really interesting analysis from Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans, obviously, for ESPN. We're all sitting there in a row in the press box in New England, and after Tannehill throws that interception that goes off the hands of one DB into J.C. Jackson's arms for his 7th pick. By the way, J.C. Jackson's Twitter handle is at Mr. INT, so fitting. He lived up to the billing yesterday. But Teron kind of watching the replay back, because we watched the play on the field, the television broadcast about 20 seconds behind us in real time. So you look up at the TV and you see the play call, and Teron basically says, man, I hate that on 4th and 2. I hate that call on 4th and 2 because you clearly see them moving Ryan Tannehill to his right. They're trying to get guys broken open. There's not a play necessarily to be made there with his legs, and you're already condensing the field when you call that kind of play, that kind of concept, by taking away 2 options on the far side when you're rolling to your right. Now, if you're going to roll him out, because he can score with his legs, he made a couple of plays with his legs yesterday. But basically, you were dividing the fields into quadrants, and 2 of them were eliminated as soon as he started basically running to his right as soon as he caught the snap. So it wasn't a perfect performance by any stretch of the imagination. And anytime you come out of a game with 85 yards net passing, you're going to feel pretty bad about it, especially when the dude on the other side is a rookie and puts on a rookie of the year type performance, because your defense wasn't sniffing him at all yesterday. Outside of Kevin Byard and Naquan Jones, Mac Jones was super comfortable in the pocket.
Was that his best performance as a pro?
Mac Jones?
Yeah.
It was his, I would say so, because, and it's a product of the time. I don't want to get too far away from the Tannehill thing, so let me circle back to Mac Jones here in just a second, because I think there's good context that will require some more involvement. But we asked you, whether you're riding in your car, listening on your Zone app, whatever you're doing, Zone TV, if you want to call in, 615-737-1045, what is Ryan Tannehill's ceiling as quarterback for the Tennessee Titans? Because immediately after Tannehill throws the interception, so he's now 14 touchdowns to 13 picks on the year. It's bad, right? There's no excusing it other than to say, okay, each interception you have to take on a case-by-case basis and not lump all 13 into one another. I'm looking at this and saying, for Ryan Tannehill, he is totally capable of winning a Super Bowl with the Tennessee Titans if the roster is as it was meant to be. Now, you are never going to finish the year with all of your star power, all of your best players available in the final game of the season. You may not even make it to the postseason that way. Ryan Tannehill's ceiling is Super Bowl. I have no doubt in my mind about it. But when you trot him out there with a defense yesterday that wasn't getting turnovers, again, for the second straight week, and wasn't getting pressure, and a skill position group that I'm sorry, is just simply not good enough. I think Nick Westbrook-Akina has come a long way. He was not good enough to help them win the game yesterday. I think Chester Rogers is a fine option as the slot, as your 3 or your 4. He cannot be a primary receiving option, and you're getting jack out of your tight ends. Just nothing. Something that's supposed to be the security blanket for the quarterback. Des Fitzpatrick, I very much question on a number of levels, and we will have time to reassess, the selection of Des Fitzpatrick, much less the trade up to go get him once we've seen a complete season, I don't think it's fair to just completely cast him out after 12 games, but it's not good enough. It wasn't good enough when he couldn't make the roster as a fourth-round pick. Ryan Tannehill with those skill position groups and kidney shot turnovers. The one in the 2-minute drill where the Titans are trailing by 7 and they have the ability to go down the field and score and Dontrell Hilliard fumbles, you almost forgive it because of the 68-yard touchdown. You cannot excuse turnovers, but at least he made a play to make up for it. Deontay Foreman's, you may as well have just started scoring touchdowns against your own defense. It's a disaster what happened to them yesterday. And so I asked Ryan Tannehill in the press conference last night, what do you do at this point when you're bringing dudes in off the street every week, and every week you got to run out there and you got to find ways to put together a game plan? And what's worse, they put together a game plan that was working. Over 260 yards on the ground. That's more than Derrick Henry type numbers. They had it figured out. You can win a game throwing for 85 net passing yards, even if Ryan Tannehill has a touchdown and interception. If you have 260-plus yards on the ground with this football team and the defense playing up to its potential, you win the game. Pats are good, and they couldn't stop you for bleep yesterday. So I'm asking Ryan Tannehill, how do you kind of go about this? How much can you realistically install when you're getting dudes out of free agency, basically, guys that weren't on a roster 12 weeks into the year, and you're having to figure out a game plan and execute, off of a Tuesday?
Yeah, obviously it's not an ideal situation, but, I felt really confident coming in. I felt like we had a really good plan. I felt like our guys knew what it was going to take and grasped the plan. And I felt like we did a pretty good job of executing on the whole, minus, some key mistakes. So I was proud of our guys and the way they battled, especially Cody, guy who just got here, came in, battled hard. The running backs ran really hard. Thought the offensive line battled. They finished, they pushed piles, and played the kind of ball that we like to see. So there's some good things on this tape and some things we need to learn from.
So what do we know about Ryan Tannehill? We know that guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, maybe even Lamar Jackson, although a bad performance by Lamar last night. I'm not hearing any screams about Lamar throwing 4 interceptions. I guess that's because they won the game, but still. So we know that Ryan Tannehill is not in and of himself going to elevate guys that aren't starting level players in this league. So that means he's what? The second tier down? That doesn't mean, as I was seeing in my mentions yesterday, and maybe it's just reaction, that the Titans need to go about drafting another quarterback. That's insane to me. Ryan Tannehill is perfectly fine for them to be able to go out and win games. But if you put him in a position like this, of course he's going to have things collapse around him. And still, they almost found a way to win that damn football game. I could not get over it. And I put this out on social media last night. I'm watching this, and it felt like, almost like Tennessee, Alabama, or Tennessee, Georgia, right? Where the inferior team is going to the top of the food chain on the road. And you're saying, all right, if you can hang with them, it's gravy. Moral victories for everybody. Maybe you're not a moral victory person. That's all well and good. So maybe you score the most points on Georgia's defense that you have at any point in the year. You put 17 on Georgia's defense. Happy for you. You still get blown out. Why? Because you don't have the depth to withstand a team like Georgia that's sitting at the top of the food chain. And what I watched yesterday with the Titans keeping it competitive in the first half and then things snowballing on them in the second is they simply just didn't have enough good players to go out there and win that football game. Breaking news, I know, with them starting or playing or dressing their 86th player on the season, an NFL record in the last 28 years. It's ridiculous. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. What is Ryan Tannehill's ceiling with the Tennessee Titans. We'll go to the phones here in just a second, but I do need to remind you that 104.5 The Zone is building a field of toys to benefit the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels. Toy Field, presented by T-Mobile, is Tuesday, December 7th at Nissan Stadium. While you're out there doing your holiday shopping, remember those in need this holiday season. Please pick up a gift for a senior or a toy and help us build a field of toys at Toy Field on Tuesday, December 7th. If you need more info, you can visit 1045thezone.com. All right, to the phones. Bam in Nashville is up next on Ryan Tannehill. What's up, Bam?
Yo, what up? How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm making it. A lot of air travel left to do today, but I'm making it.
My man. Well, look, man. I can't really be hard on Tannehill because I said earlier, and I'm saying it again, like, bro, he has no chemistry with none of those guys. Now, I'm going to say this. If our starter started yesterday, totally different ball game. Totally different game. If we see the Patriots in the playoffs again, totally different game. They're very much so beatable. Like you said, they couldn't stop the run. If Ryan has his blankets and Julio and AJ, I think that's a total different thing because they're going to make the plays that are like clockwork to them. You know what I'm saying? So they did what they could, but it's just inexperience. Inexperience beat them. And then even with Ryan being experienced, they don't have the experience to match him, and it's only so much that he can do. So he's trying to mentally keep himself together and keep himself in the game. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's completely relevant. I appreciate the call, Bam. 615-737-1045. Here's the thing about Tannehill, right? Like, I'm not going to do the analysis in a way that says, yeah, if the starters play, they beat the Patriots. I have no idea. That game could have gone 900 different ways, right? If A.J. Brown or Julio Jones or Derrick Henry or any of them had been available to play in that game. They could have won. They could have found a way to lost. It's not like it's beyond comprehension because everybody, including the Patriots yesterday, even though they've won their 6th straight game, and again, after one down bad year, are sitting at the top of the AFC East. Bill Belichick is back, baby, and better or badder, excuse my grammar, than ever. What I'll say to you is this. As far as that is concerned, everybody is beatable. I watched Baltimore and Cleveland last night. I saw a Browns team that has precious little juice. Lamar Jackson throwing 4 interceptions, found Mark Andrews in the end zone, found a touchdown, has the best kicker in the sport, and is able to pressure the quarterback. Both of those teams look infinitely beatable. Cincinnati rolled over Pittsburgh yesterday. The Steelers, I'm not threatened in any stretch of the imagination by. Cincinnati, I'm still kind of unclear on. Buffalo is sliding and has dealt with a lot of different issues, even though they got right against the Saints on Thanksgiving. And not the Patriots, forgive me, Freudian slip. Tom Brady went into Indianapolis yesterday and knocked the Colts back down to 500 to give you a little breathing room around your neck because the injury report has basically been a noose. There are so many different ways to look at this and say, yeah, you don't want to say it's okay for them to lose. But like, for example, take Randy Bullock yesterday. Randy Bullock has been a gem. And when I say Titans legend Randy Bullock now, I damn well mean it because he has been, outside of yesterday, spectacular. So Randy it's a bad day to have a bad day for Randy Bullock. And he misses one of his 2 extra points, and he misses his field goal attempt. Randy Bullock cost them 4 points. Randy Bullock can't afford to have a bad day because everything else around Randy Bullock, not just Ryan Tannehill, think about it this way. It's not just Tannehill that this is happening to. Randy Bullock can't have even the slightest of down performances because you can't rely on anything right now because you don't know who's playing for them. I'm sitting there looking at my flip card that was printed out on Tuesday and how many different roster alterations they've made since Tuesday. It's ridiculous.
But that spreads across all of special teams, right? Not just Randy Bullock. You can't afford a muff punt against the Texans. That spots them a touchdown last week. You can't afford a illegal formation penalty that turns, really, it's a 5-yard penalty, but it's really, a 30-plus yard penalty because of the field position.
Buddy, you can't afford Monty Rice getting a defensive pass interference on the Patriots' first drive when you had him dead to rights, and Brandon Bolden, I think, was the running back at the time that ran for the first down after you held them down well. You can't afford mistakes anywhere because your team is not at this point good enough to make up for them. That includes Ryan Tannehill. Again, the roster, even if it's a quarter of what it's supposed to be, you can find ways to win playoff games with Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback. They did it after Derrick Henry went down because they have things at their disposal. But you cannot have Randy Bullock missing if you don't have the offensive firepower to keep up. You cannot have Jeff Simmons and Harold Landry. Not a single pressure between the two of them. Between the two of them, according to Next Gen Stats. On Mac Jones yesterday, your pressures came from Kevin Byard because they desperately needed something to rattle that quarterback, and Naquan Jones made a play in the second half when things felt kind of out of hand. So, I mean, when you talk to the guys about this last night, there's just so many different ways that this can go about. But also there has to be some self-awareness, right? Because I keep coming back to Deontay Foreman. Deontay Foreman, I want you to hear this exchange, and then we'll react to it afterwards. We'll go back to the phones as well. The Titans running back who fumbled in the second half, and that specific turnover being probably the most damning bad play of the Titans' day yesterday. Listen to his response when we ask him 2 questions about this turnover, and see if you don't pick up what I'm putting down, basically.
It's definitely frustrating. I mean, the biggest thing is running backs. We got to protect the football, run hard, and just try to do what we could do to help the team win. And speaking on myself, I got to do better with securing the ball and finishing my runs.
What kind of happened on that play where you lost the ball?
I mean, I seen the gap. I tried to get through it, and I just didn't feel the defenders on the side of me. He made a great play, so just got to, do a better job of protecting the ball in the open field.
You did.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just stuff we got to clean up. We never want to put the ball on the ground as a running back group, and today we did that. So, at the end of the day, like I said, we gotta do better with protecting the football. I think we ran the ball pretty well, but at the end of the day, we put the ball on the ground. It's not good.
That's the entirety of his press conference. I cut in after the first 2 questions. Lucas didn't realize that it was only I didn't realize that Lucas told me it was only a minute long last night that we spoke to Deontay Foreman. But the second question is the biggest takeaway. When I'm asking him, hey, can you kind of walk us through what happened, how you coughed that ball up? And when he says he doesn't feel the defenders on the side of him, buddy, do you think you're pulling away? You're not Derrick Henry. I appreciate your confidence as a professional athlete. That's something you have to possess. But you cannot tell me, if you're Deontay Foreman, that you don't feel the defenders closing in on you. And so that's the reason whether your ball security gets lax at that point. The defender did make a nice play to punch it out, but you're not pulling away from anybody. Make the play and hang on to the damn ball. It is catastrophic, and it served that purpose yesterday in favor of the Patriots, who just feasted. 615-737-1045 if you want to jump in on the conversation. Let's go to Frank in Gallatin up next on 1045 The Zone. Hello, Frank.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's great.
Thanks for having me on the show. I just want to say about Tannehill first that, he hasn't had all his guys on offense the whole year. I mean, the line has been beat up. The receivers have been on IR. He can't develop a rhythm with them because they're not there all the time. And, I know he's not an elite quarterback, but I think he's good enough to take us to the Super Bowl if we had a team that wasn't injured like we are, which brings me to my point. No one seems to be talking about the injuries and why are we having so many injuries. Do we have to think about what's going on with the medical staff or with the trainers? All of the hamstring injuries, it seems like they would be keeping them, more warm and stretched out on the sideline, that kind of thing. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm grasping straws, but that's all I got to say.
Thanks for the call, Frank. And because I get asked about this a lot, about the injuries, and then immediately you see Monty Rice goes off and there's a flurry of tweets on my timeline. Fire the Titans training staff. What? Because somebody stepped on his ankle? Like, come on. Regarding soft tissue, I don't know enough about their process, and I don't think Mike Vrabel's going to shed any light on it. Only that they trust their training staff. But I would say to you that I understand the reaction to want to grasp at straws because you want there to be some other explanation than, oh, this is just wretched luck that all of these players are getting injured. And it's not just soft tissue injury. There is an accumulation of different things, right? You've got Bud Dupree with an abdominal. You've got hamstrings all over the place. You've got Monty Rice with an ankle yesterday. You got two dudes coming back who are high-profile players that are working through ACL repairs. Like, it's just a whole mess of things at this point. So I would say to you, I don't have the information to give you a good analysis other than it's okay sometimes, I feel like, to not have a take as far as injuries are concerned. Like, I don't think you need to have an impassioned opinion about whether the Titans training staff needs to be fired unless, one, you have some kind of a medical degree that would indicate that they're doing something wrong and that you know about their process next to other NFL teams. I don't think anybody has the answer to that question right now. When we come back, we'll continue to take your phone calls. You'll hear from Taylor Lewan and Big Jeff Simmons on this situation. We're also going to pivot to an insane weekend in college football, not just on the field, but the coaching carousel. She's a spinning. That's coming up next. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone. That's Mike Keith. Defense, trying to make some plays yesterday. And honestly, I mean, nobody was good enough to win, right? That's the cliche. But the defense in keeping or trying to keep the team in that game because of the way that they were able to get red zone stops. Now, listen, Mac Jones missed a clear and obvious touchdown to, who was it, Hunter Henry in the back of the end zone that I thought bailed them out in a big way as well on one of those red zone stops. But I thought there was some stuff positively to take away from that game. We'll go back to your phone calls here in just a second. But we asked Jeff Simmons yesterday about this, about, what is different at this point about this team after the win streak. Now they've dropped 2 in a row. What stands out differently about the Titans? And Jeff's answer I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, they were trying to run the ball against us. As you see, I think I saw they had like 47 rushing yards coming to the fourth quarter. I mean, we knew they were going to try to be bullies, and we weren't going to get bullied. And they bullet ball. They're trying to knock you off the ball and try to run the ball. And I think we were standing up to it. We were stopping the run. Of course, they got the rush touchdown at the end in the fourth quarter, but I think we were doing a hell of a job stopping their run. So, I mean, that's what it was. It was stopping their run and just getting on the field, making kick field goals.
And they did that several times. So, again, the bones of this thing are there. And we'll talk more about it in the noon hour. We'll carry Mike Vrabel's press conference for you because there's some really fantastic stuff from the world of college football that we have yet to address. But let's go back to the phones in the meantime. Let's go to Kenneth in Murfreesboro, who's up next on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, Kenneth?
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going.
So I just wanted to, kind of speak on the turnovers and quick hit on the defense. I think the defense is playing amazing, and as long as they can keep this up, we get everybody healthy. I like our odds. But just back to the, the turnovers, I think is the biggest takeaway. Tannehill, he did better than, last week. Last week was terrible. I feel like, he gets locked on his first read a lot. I don't know if that's just me, not seeing it right, but like here lately, he's forced a lot of bad, just terrible interceptions. But I think last game, he kind of did what he could with what he had. But I just truly think, we just cut the turnovers out. We get healthy. I think we'll be all right.
Man, you cut the turnovers out in either of these games. You probably, I don't want to say you win easily. Again, to do the analysis in retrospect and with the result in hand, I don't think does anybody any good. But there were so many opportunities for them to win this game. It just blows me away that 9 turnovers on offense in the last 2 and zero turnovers for the defense when they had 11 over the course of that 6-game win streak in the middle of the season. Let's go to Brent in Brentwood, who wants to weigh in. What's up, Brent?
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I'm doing well. I hope that Tannehill people will start thinking of him as an elite quarterback. I think he's done a tremendous job this year with everything he's had to face. And that's all.
Okay. I appreciate the call, Brent. Elite, we use elite too much. 14 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Elite is not the category that you put him in. But we'll come back to that conversation about Ryan Tannehill. Again, Mike Vrabel will speak to the media at noon, and we'll carry that live for you. We'll react to that, of course, as well. Elite is not the category that I would like to put Ryan Tannehill in, nor that I think there's probably 3 elite quarterbacks in football. Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes. And that's okay. I think Lamar is probably has days when he's in there, has days when he's not. But Ryan Tannehill can be the next tier down and still be good enough to win you football games. I think truly that is the case at this point. Isaac in Nashville is up next on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, Isaac?
Good, man. Hello.
Isaac, you're on the air.
Hey, sir. Yeah, I was wondering, man. I know we had Mr. Tate on the practice squad. I was just trying to see do you think we'll elevate him? Is that going to make a difference with him being another playmaker? It's apparent that Mr. Tannehill needs more weapons, needs more things, And is it also possible that, let's just say we went out or if the Patriots lose in some kind of way, can we get that AFC top spot back? Thank you.
Isaac, oh, well, he hung up. I mean, here's the thing. And as far as your chances for the first-round bye are concerned, you kneecapped him yesterday. You went from 42% to 26% in the ability to try and regain your spot at the top of the conference. That now belongs to the Baltimore Ravens, who gained an AFC win yesterday. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. And the Golden Tate thing, think about this, okay? I want to put in context for people the Golden Tate situation. They felt, with all of the injuries that they had, and by they I mean the Titans coaching staff and organization, they felt that Golden Tate wasn't good enough or up to speed enough to be on that active roster on Sunday. And they ran out there with that collection of skill position players like they did, and still almost had a strategy, and did seem to have a strategy to win the football game. But Golden Tate couldn't make the cut. So, like, playmaking ability, we're not talking about 2016 Golden Tate. We're talking about 2021. The dude who's been chilling out in Hendersonville for a couple of weeks on the couch until the Titans needed another body.
And they still broke the record, right, for most players used in a season.
Yeah, they didn't even call him up.
But you got to think he factors in against the Jaguars, right? A.J. Brown's still on IR.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, listen, this was about Marcus Johnson going on IR, and this was about A.J. Brown going on IR. They are going to get him up to speed. The bye week helps. It's just not enough time. You cannot put him out there and further jeopardize the quarterback because you've got yet another wide receiver who doesn't know your route concepts, doesn't know your offense. It's detrimental to the team. You cannot have it that way. When we come back, we're going to talk about an insane weekend in college football. Upsets at Orgeron, Lincoln Riley, switching not just schools but conferences. So many different things happening in the world of college football. And we'll speak with our buddy Austin Burlage, who will break down the result of the Tennessee-Vanderbilt game in Knoxville this weekend. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans kept it close. A one-possession game going into halftime. Ran for 270 yards on the day, but 4 turnovers, including 3 fumbles and 50 yards in penalties. Too much to overcome in a 36-13 loss at the New England Patriots. It's the second straight loss for the banged-up Titans, heading into the bye week at 8-4 after breaking an NFL record for players used in a season with 86 after Sunday.
Guess that's where we're at. We got to buy. We got to get healthy, mentally and physically, and get back to playing football how we know how to play it, taking care of the football, playing complementary, knowing the details. A lot of things to improve.
Titans still hold a 2-game lead at the top of the AFC South as the Colts fell at home 38-31 to the Buccaneers on Sunday. The Baltimore Ravens did beat Cleveland on Sunday Night Football 16-10. They get to 8-3. They are now the 1 seed in the AFC. Patriots have the 2 seed as the Titans go down to 3. College football coaching carousel picked up speed on Sunday after the conclusion of the regular season. Florida making the hire of Billy Napier at a Louisiana Lafayette official, and Lincoln Riley leaves Oklahoma to take the head job at USC. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 on this Monday. Welcome back in. Buck Reising here with you. Lucas Panzica making it happen behind the scenes. Our buddy Austin Burlage going to do a little Power T tape with us. Not for the last time this season. We'll do one more Burlage segment after this one, I guess, because the Vols are going bowling, certainly. And when will we find out about that, by the way? When do they come out with the bowl, not predictions, with the bowl assignments?
Yeah, should be the day after Championship Saturday, which is this weekend.
Okay, that makes sense. If you want to get involved, 615-737-1045 is the number, 615-737-1045. College football went nuts on Saturday. And let me explain myself, because it is almost a friendship-ending decision to have your wedding in the middle of the college football season. Not even in the middle of the college football season, because this was the last week of the regular season. But my friend, Madison Blevins, Madison Hawk, congratulations to the Hawks, Colton and Madison Hawk. They got married on Saturday. They got married directly in the middle of the day. Now, I'm very happy for my friends. I love them. This is never going to get back to them because they're in Mexico unless one of you rats tweets them and alerts them to my discussion of their wedding on these live airwaves. But I stayed. Normally, I leave first thing in the morning Saturday if the Titans have a road game. I did not this week because Madison was getting married, and of course, I was happy to be there and grateful to be invited. But for Mads to have her wedding in the middle of the most probably impactful, most exciting day of college football all season long, it is almost a friendship-ending experience. And I am not ashamed to say that at several points during the entirety of the wedding, not necessarily the ceremony, I did have college football on my phone throughout the course of that wedding. And I don't think that's an unforgivable sin. I don't. In fact, I think, with Lucas, who was throwing a disco back there, if you're watching on Zone TV, shaking his head just viciously. You look like Mike Vrabel when he threw out that challenge flag yesterday. Just disgust.
It was an awful no call, but I'm so glad it gave us that challenge flag throw.
Oh, my God. You know how many times, you know how much run I'm going to get out of that gif? Mwah, chef's kiss. But, so Mads has her wedding in the middle of the day. I have to go back and watch all of the important college football games. Fine, happy to do it. It's all good. But Ohio State getting upset by Michigan in the big house looked insane. I thought both of those teams were going to beat the holy hell out of each other at several different points. Tennessee handed Vanderbilt rather easily, with not much pushback on that in that particular game. But you look elsewhere, of course, Texas A&M in the final seconds loses to LSU and Cole Kubelik with just the best, maybe the best moment in television all weekend. Just in the post-game interview with Ed Orgeron on the field. Coach O, give it to me one more time. Go Tigers.
I almost got emotional.
No, I saw your tweet. You said you got a little dusty. Said you got a little dusty back there. It's
no coach in the history of LSU will ever say "Go Tigers" like Coach O says "Go Tigers."
He should be there in some like capacity that allows him to have the personal life that Ed Orgeron chooses to have, but also like just a commemorative position in the administration. Just like stash him somewhere. Like Steve Spurrier. Didn't Steve Spurrier kind of have a deal like that for a while?
He still does, I think, at Florida.
Does he really? He's playing golf. Relax, Steve. But college football, insane this weekend, and a lot of impactful games. The Iron Bowl, and here's what I am ashamed to admit, because I'm not ashamed to say that I had college football on my phone during Madison's wedding, but I will, and this is the shameful admission, I did have the overtime of the Iron Bowl on my phone during the best man speech. And I will justify this in only one way, that Colton, God love him, he did an incredible thing. His father was his best man. It clearly meant a lot to his dad, but Dad brought each of the 3 other Hawk brothers up to give their own best man speech and then made a speech of his own. The whole thing, while very heartfelt, also got the crowd a little dusty in the, not the stands, but in the viewing audience, might I add. It almost took the entirety of the overtime, and I was doing everything in my power to not fist pump at different moments when Alabama was scoring and then Auburn would answer and Alabama again, and you're yelling at Nick Saban silently, though, because you're in the middle of a best man speech. Go for 2, Nick. What are you doing? Go for 2. And just Nick Saban outsmarting us all at the end. And there's the aftermath, right? The aftermath, because the biggest story, is the biggest story in sports today Lincoln Riley?
I think so.
Not just because he's going to USC, but this has a ripple effect across so many different, massive college football institutions. We're talking not just expectations for Lincoln Riley, who will become the next head coach of the University of Southern California Trojans. What happens at Oklahoma? Do they come after Josh Heupel at Tennessee, given that he won a national championship there? Does Josh Heupel get a raise out of this? If he has a good agent, he will, even if he's not actually in the running for that job. Can Lincoln Riley, is Lincoln Riley making a lateral move? It feels like. I don't think USC is substantially better than Oklahoma at this point, other than the fact that you're going to live in L.A. now as opposed to Norman. And then, Mario Cristobal is being thrown out there for every job, it seems, that comes open the same way that Lane Kiffin is, which is weird to me because Oregon has fallen flat a couple of different times under Cristobal. And then what happens when Oklahoma goes to the SEC? Who are they trotting out there? And not just Bob Stoops and like an ambassador. He's like an ambassador for this bowl game. He's an ambassadorial coach for the Sooners bowl game, which is hilarious. I love that. I think people should do that more often. Bring back Phil Fulmer, and then he'll never leave. He'll just stay on the sideline. But Lincoln Riley is going to send shockwaves throughout the entirety of the sport. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out why the hell he did that. And I thought it was pretty artfully done, as a matter of fact, with Lincoln Riley over the weekend, where he's asked about not the USC job, but about LSU. And Lincoln Riley, as a lot of these coaches do, got out there strong about one job.
Lincoln, are you shocked that you've gotten this far without anybody asking you about all the rumors this week? I'm just saying I'm gonna ask you about it, so I might as well. It's nonstop. It's every day.
Hold up, Gary. I'm not gonna be the next head coach at LSU.
Can I ask you?
Next question.
Oh, Lincoln, you snake. You low-down dog. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. But that very quickly, backs off, because it sounds like they're in a Zoom call. It backs off the rest of the people who had that queued up. In a press conference setting like we do with Mike, where it's in person, like we do with Mike Vrabel, And, of course, Mike Vrabel will speak at noon. We'll carry that press conference live. But with Mike, when we're in an in-person press conference, we can not only, like, work off of each other's questions, but there's no downtime for him to shut us down and then shut down the line of questioning that way. It makes for a much more unpleasant experience if you're the coach, but it's a much more honest and transparent process because the Zoom call allows you to debate. I mean, you can straight up mute everybody if you wanted to. Next question, he says. All right, Lincoln, you're not going to be the head coach at LSU. Well, happy for you. We'll see you in sunny Southern California when you're taking over for Clay Helton there. What? You remember when we were talking about this Jimbo Fisher thing, when we held up Jimbo Fisher's basically denial that he was in the running for the LSU job up against Urban Meyer when he was asked about it with the Jags, about potentially going to USC. Who else do it? Mike Tomlin in the mix for that. Mike Tomlin, I believe. The rest of these guys, I don't believe a damn word that comes out of their mouth.
I believe
football
Jimbo.
coaches, no. College football coaches are used car salesmen.
I believe Jimbo.
Well, listen, but you like Jimbo. Are you not a Jimbo Fisher? I don't want to say you're a Jimbo Fisher fan, but you generally like Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, I like the way he speaks to the media. He's entertaining. I think he's really engaging.
Yeah, because he's trying to control the narrative and make you feel a false sense of comfort for when he bolts for LSU.
That would
you're the patsy in this.
No, I
don't think
not,
he's going to leave.
not
I don't
leaving.
know, but I mean, how can you say that definitively?
You're right. You can't say it
You know?
definitively. I'm just saying I believe him, but
Because
you're
Lincoln Riley just said definitively he's not taking it. What?
Well,
he said he's not taking it.
Yeah, he was right. He didn't lie. No lies were told.
Except, no, that's a lie. That's a lie in and of itself. And now there's banners being hung all around the campus in Norman of traitor because he went for a better job. But I don't know. That's my thing. I'm hung up on this. I don't know if USC is a better job than Oklahoma. But we'll talk about it with you coming up next. 615-737-1045. What do you think was the craziest result from the college football weekend? Michigan and Ohio State. Whether you're looking at how Tennessee performed against Vanderbilt and what that means for future implications, not just for Josh Heupel as the head coach of Tennessee, but who's going to be the next head coach at Oklahoma. You have so many crazy results from the weekend. A&M and LSU, as we talked about, with that last-minute, last-second upset and sending Coach O off the field. He's not even coaching their bowl game. He's taking the walk-off, baby. He's like, I'm not going to get embarrassed by another team in my last performance. This is it for me. Go Tigers. We'll do some Power T-Tape with Austin Burlage as well. That's coming up next. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. We will get back to some Titan stuff at 12 o'clock. Mike Vrabel will meet with the media, and I've got a story of my own to tell you coming up next. But in the meantime, we're going through some of the stuff that happened in college football this weekend. It was insane. Now, what was not necessarily insane, and we'll get back to your phone calls here in just a second. I see some really good questions specifically about the transfer portal on my call screener. But we first have to welcome in our buddy. We don't have to. We get to welcome in our buddy Austin Burlage for some Power T tape analysis at Austin _Burlage is where you can follow him. Hello, bud.
Hey, Buck. Welcome back home.
Thank you. I am going straight back to, well, not straight back to the airport after this today, but I will be back at Nashville International Airport. I'm going to see how many airports I can rack up on that thread today, Burlage. I don't know if you were following along with that this morning.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. No, I've had a busy morning. I haven't seen it.
Yes, Austin has actual responsibilities like children and, jobs and things of that nature. He doesn't have time to follow my stupid threads on Twitter. But what we did have time to follow, of course, was Vanderbilt not only losing, but not even covering against Tennessee in Knoxville this weekend. No, they did cover. I lied.
They did, yeah. So last week on our show, you asked, right, could Vanderbilt cover the 31? And we said yes. So if you are a betting person and you listen to 104.5 The Zone with Buck Reising, you made some money.
Well, I think then it's incumbent upon me to remember or to be able to do math in real time to subtract 21 from 45. Idiot. Anyway. Vanderbilt is what Vanderbilt is at this point, and I feel bad for Clark Lee. I feel bad for Mike Wright. I feel bad for Vanderbilt football players in general. What did you see initially, though, from Tennessee that you liked that allowed them to basically roll against obviously an inferior opponent?
Yeah, that's really what it came down to. I think this game kind of got lost in the shuffle of what was a great college football Saturday between Michigan, Ohio State, Bedlam, and the 4 overtime Iron Bowl. So, but there was some good stuff here. I'm obviously not a Vanderbilt fan, and I'm not. I know that there are some out here that listen to the show, and I'm not trying to pump sunshine your way, but really, it wasn't as bad of a beat down as the score. One of the touchdowns was a defensive score on a pick six that happened, I believe, on the first drive of the game. And then Tennessee had a garbage time touchdown when they started at their own 16, and Tennessee had a touchdown when they had a punt return early on. Actually, no, they didn't score on that, but they started from their 21. So, but there's 14 points right there, and I believe now I have to do math, but a 24-point victory that, it could have been a lot closer is all I'm saying with that. But I think Tennessee, obviously, superior. They didn't have a ton of explosive plays outside of Cedric Tillman being a man amongst boys. But they were able to, grind out some yards, especially on the ground, 100-yard backs. And I think that really was a story, was Vanderbilt actually able to keep a lot of stuff in front of them. And outside of missing a couple tackles on a long Tillman touchdown, they really made Tennessee earn it, and that's not something that a lot of the bottom feeder SEC East teams have done this year.
No, it's great perspective, and of course not just the 200-yard running backs in Jalen Wright and Jabari Small, but Hendon Hooker, 11 for 75 as well, making some plays with his legs as well as through the air, very efficient in the passing game. I'm looking at this though. And we talked about Cedric Tillman last week and what I thought his draft prospects were this season. I'm still inclined to tell him to come back, but every week that I watch him, Austin, he is, of course, thriving in this offense in ways that I think somebody like Velus Jones Jr. thought he might have the opportunity to do prior to the season with how excited he was to play for Josh Heupel and in this scheme. But Cedric Tillman is just such a great fit for this and has all of the traits that you look for if you're talking about one of these big body, not necessarily burner, but contested catch players that can make plays down the field as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you just like in a general sense, when you think about the Heupel offense and how spread out it is and how fast you go, you think of guys like Velus Jones, and I know preseason there was a lot of hype around Jalen Hyatt. of guys maybe working in the slot of having some space and getting them the ball, but really it's been Tillman, and he's been the guy on the outside, and he's gotten a lot of one-on-one, and he's shown time and time again he can beat press coverage really well. He when he gets the ball in his hands, he can make you miss. I don't know if he's the fastest guy, like you said, but like you said, he is really good, in terms of using his frame to box out defenders. I think in terms of going to the NFL, I just wonder about the route tree. I don't think Tennessee has him. It's more of a route stick at Tennessee. But how can he? He's going to be able to show that he can at least do all of the after the catch and ball skills things, and we'll see what his pro day numbers would look like, things like that. I'm sure he'll get a grade and make a decision there. But he's the guy that I think has probably helped his draft stock the most this year. And if he left, I would not be surprised. If other guys left, I'd probably be a little bit surprised. But based on how he played this year, and I think the best football is ahead of him. And certainly hope he comes back, but would not be surprised if he did.
Austin Burlage is our guest, as he is every Monday. We're talking Vols off of their result against Vanderbilt this weekend, a big win at home. And now, they were already bowl eligible, but certainly you feel much better about where they stand under Josh Heupel at this point. So Tyon Evans puts out a message on his social media about the fact that he's entering the transfer portal. And I want to talk about what this team positionally needs to address based on what you watch on a weekly basis, Austin, later on. But, what do you feel comfortable with the depth behind him at this point? And I don't necessarily, I haven't seen an answer as to why he's doing this specifically, but what are they losing in Tyon Evans in this backfield?
Yeah, I have been told some potential reasons why this might be happening, but I don't want to get too much into it. I don't feel confident enough to say it, but I think it's a huge loss. And I know that he had faced some injuries this year, and I think he only had like 81 carries or something like that. But clearly a game changer when he had the ball in his hands. And I think that's really important for this offense when you think about how fast we go. You can't just have one running back that's out there we're the fastest offense in college football. So to have one back out there that's getting a ton of carries, always in space, taking hits, and then the pass protection on all of our play action pass game, it's just a lot to ask. So you need at least two, and that's something that we've seen, in this system. I guess the closest comp right now would probably be Ole Miss, and you think about Jerry and Ely, I think, and Snoop Connor, and they have a third one, I believe. This offense usually thrives when you have two guys that are kind of 1A and 1B. I think highly of Jalen Wright. I think he had a really good game on Saturday. But the thing that always gets me about him and everybody besides Jabari Small is I don't see that breakaway speed that I do with Tyon. Where if Tyon gets one-on-one with a guy, I feel confident that Tyon's going to make a miss and take it to the house. The other guys, I don't have that confidence in. So I think his loss is monumental, and I think that would be a position that Tennessee needs to look to fill with a transfer, unless they can pull some guy like Travion Henderson, which is a true freshman freak of nature kind of back.
So outside of that running back position, positionally, what else do they absolutely have? If you're making an off season, I know we're not quite to the off season, but if you're making an off season transfer portal checklist, what is at the top of Austin Burlage's list, and what are the top, let's say, three?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say middle linebacker, but I think I'm going to go in a different direction. I think I have some concerns about the secondary. I thought Warren Burrell has had some struggles over the last couple of games, and I've thought that Alante has played pretty well, but he's also going to leave, we think. So that's two corners right there. When you play the talent that Tennessee does on the schedule, and that's not going away in the next few years. We've got, Oklahoma coming up soon. We got LSU next year, things like that. You're going to have guys on the outside. So I think corner is one that I would be, well, corner and safety, I guess I combine into just general defensive back. I mean, Theo Jackson had a great year, but he's going to be gone.
Right.
So I just think that's going to be a huge position group that we're going to lose a lot of senior leadership and talent. And then I think the other one I would look at would be offensive line, because you're only going to have one more year of Darnell Wright, I think. I don't know. COVID kind of, I think, messed up everybody's timeline, so I'm a little unclear on where things stand with some people. But is Cade Mays going to come back? I think yesterday Jerome Carvin has said he's coming back, which is a big get, but that's just a hard position to fill, like we saw with Pruitt, where we had 5-star Darnell Wright and 5-star Wanya Morris come in as freshmen, and they didn't look very good because the D-line talent in the SEC is just insane. So that's a position that I think needs to be filled, particularly with transfers. You try to get some established offensive line guys into the system, and I think Tennessee's offensive line probably did better this year than maybe they were expected to. So I feel confident in the coaching at that position and the scheme, but that's just a group that I think might be a little thin unless you can fill it out with some guys that aren't true freshmen.
Austin Burlage at Austin_Burlage is where you can follow him. He has joined us every Monday throughout the college football season to break down the University of Tennessee. Buddy, I don't know who they're going to play in their bowl game, and I don't know which bowl game they're going to play in, but hopefully we can have you on one more time to talk about the results and go through that together. Thank you for all that you've done this season.
Oh, I appreciate you guys. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I know I was talking to Lucas. I've seen some projections for Wisconsin versus Tennessee. So if that matchup happens, I'll be there. I'm in the bag for the Music City Bowl. I'm hoping it's there so I can come down and visit with you guys and bring some gifts from Wisconsin. So that's my selfish ask, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, listen, we are all about self-interest on this show, so we hope that Austin Burlage gets everything that he wants. I'll talk to you later, buddy. Thanks again.
Yep. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Austin Burlage there with us on 104.5 The Zone. I felt kind of bad asking him if he was worried about Oklahoma we don't know if Oklahoma's trying to come in and scoop up Josh Heupel. But how big a raise do you think it's – I mean, here's the thing about this, and I think it's all well and good. I'm pretty entrenched on my position about Cedric Tillman needing to come back as far as his draft stock is concerned, and I'm going to start texting some people, at things like the Senior Bowl and scouts and things like that to kind of drum up some more information on what the NFL thinks about him at this point, and frankly, Hendon Hooker, given what the quarterback position looks like until we have a more solid commitment either way from either of those two dudes. But I don't know why I can't get this Heupel to Oklahoma thing out of my head. And it can't just be because he played there and won a national championship there. Like, that's such a lame way to do it, but it happens. I don't know if it happens at programs like that, though, because Oklahoma has managed its coaching searches well, and I don't think they're just going to go out and get the guy because he's an Oklahoma guy and because he's clearly having success at Tennessee.
I think he'd be kind of far down the list. Maybe not terribly far, but in that 3, 4, 5, 6 range. Because here's a guy who did play at Oklahoma and win a national championship. He is offensive driven, obviously. I don't know that his recruiting pedigree is big enough yet to put him at the top of their list. And the leadership at Oklahoma is still the same leadership that fired Josh Heupel and Jay Norvell as co-offensive coordinators back in 2015. Norvell's doing a really good job as the head coach at Nevada right now. Heupel doing a good job at Tennessee right now. So that's the reason why I think neither of those guys would really be high up on their list.
What are you doing, like a Chris Collinsworth impression back there? Now,
what?
Here's a guy.
Now,
here's a guy. All right, Chris. 615-737-1045 is the number. Do you, as a Vols fan, have any reason to be concerned about Josh Heupel and the opening at Oklahoma? 615-737-1045. I'm looking at the openings right now. Now, one of the, let's say the big four, okay? Because Duke is open and it's a Power 5 school, but meh. So the big four, do I put Miami in this?
They haven't fired anybody yet.
Yeah, so it's not open, but like even if I'm talking about like a big four job, like is Miami a big job?
It's a notch below Oklahoma and LSU, certainly.
And it's Florida filled their opening this weekend with Billy Napier at a Louisiana State?
Louisiana Lafayette.
Louisiana
Lafayette. State is LSU.
Right. Forgive me. 615-737-1045. Louisiana Lafayette coach Billy Napier, he goes to Florida. LSU and Oklahoma are the two big ones open right now. Duke also open as a part of a Power 5 school. And then you have Miami that hasn't fired Manny Diaz yet, but probably should. I mean, that's flatlining in a bad way. 615-737-1045. Lebowski says Lucas needs a slide-in camera shot, much like Collinsworth. Listen, I'm focused on getting him lights that don't flicker before I can get him a full Chris Collinsworth slide. I think that at this point, Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports, who is a respected name in college football, he put together a list of candidates that Oklahoma would like to consider, and he did have Heupel on that list. But again, is that a big enough name? And should big name coaching candidates matter? Because if Florida hires Billy Napier out from under LSU's nose, and Billy Napier does well at Florida, we don't know who LSU is going to hire. They could have a home run hire, but if they go for sex appeal over somebody who clearly understands how to run a program from the ground up, and he's doing it at Florida instead of the biggest, one of the biggest college football programs in the country, certainly one of the most profitable and one of the most well-financed in the country. If Florida scoops Billy Napier out from under LSU's nose and LSU botches this or even doesn't live up to expectation, that's a bad look for LSU. 615-737-1045. I feel like Josh Heupel, I don't know if he's that yet. I don't know. I think we still have a lot more to learn, right? Don't ever make conclusions too quickly or draw conclusions too quickly, because after a bowl win, people thought Jeremy Pruitt was the answer on Rocky Top. He was not. Spoiler alert. Dano in Murfreesboro is up next. What's up, Dan?
Make it stop. This is the reason I don't like most of my fellow Tennessee fans. I wish they'd stop talking about Heupel leaving. He got fired from Oklahoma. The man's already said he's not going anywhere. Make it go away.
And Dan, hang with me, because I would love that, right? But I just had Lincoln Riley telling me definitively that he wouldn't take the LSU job in Bolt. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's never going to stop because, one, it does too well on website articles, and two, this is what fans like to do in the offseason.
I know, but it's aggravating. I think he's here to stay and not worried about him going anywhere.
I hope that's the case. Thank you for the call, Dan. 615-737-1045. I thought he was talking about me. Make it stop.
I guess he is in a way.
You can't.
But the thing is, Lane Kiffin, when he was snatched away from Tennessee by USC, was 5th or 6th on USC's list. USC had to cross off a couple names before they got to Lane Kiffin. Oklahoma, I think, would have to cross off some names before they got down to Josh Heupel.
And just like, why do we do this with the big – and Heupel's not the big name hire either. Like,
no.
It doesn't check either of the boxes. I need body of work. I need proof of concept. I need a name. And I love that Bob Stoops is just going to come back and ceremoniously coach the Oklahoma Sooners in their bowl game. What a great gig Bob Stoops has right now.
That's pretty unprecedented, right? Like,
I've never heard of that in my life.
This is not Barry Alvarez coming down. He was the AD at Wisconsin, so he stepped down, coached the bowl game, and made a hire. This is not that. Stoops is retired.
Barry Alvarez has a little bit of a Philip Fulmer complex, I feel like. Like, you just can't let go. It's okay, Barry. It's enough already. You've been there for 100 years.
Wonder if Stoops has the itch. He's only like 60.
All right, now you make it stop. Cut it out.
Oh, I'd love
He has
to.
to work, 12 Saturdays a year and then a couple, bowl games for Fox? He's not calling games, is he?
No, I haven't seen him call
He's just
games.
there as an
He's doing
analyst.
Big noon.
If he wanted to work more, he would work more. He's working less for a reason. Go back to the hellscape, especially with the transfer portal.
He's young. He's a spring chicken.
Wasn't he anti-transfer portal? Like, wasn't he one of those loud out there about that? I can't recall. I don't want to assign something unfairly to Bob Stoops, but I feel like that was a part of, the end of the Bob Stoops tenure is his frustration with the upcoming or the impending rule changes as far as transfers are concerned. Big Game Bob is back, baby, says Lebowski. Big Game Bob for Oklahoma and Big Game Bill against the Titans yesterday. We'll take your calls on the other side, and then I'm going to tell you a story about a man and a journey. And it's going to be dramatic, so stick around. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. So, now we have just been tagged in a tweet, Lucas and myself. Coach Bob Stoops will not return to Big Noon Kickoff for the remainder of the 2021 season as he leaves to pursue other responsibilities. Now, this is not necessarily a fair indication of how valid that report is, but this account tweeting it out that Lebowski has tagged us in, he has 233 followers. Now no, I'm not follower shaming. It doesn't matter. You make your bones however you make it, whatever. But I don't know that this is necessarily a reputable news source. And now whenever this happens, I'll just have to eat it. I'm just saying.
It is from Saturday.
It is from Saturday.
So indicative of what came out about Bob Stoops on Sunday.
He should have, if it's been 2 days, how many followers did he have before? You have no followers before that? I'm not going to follow or shame people. I'm not going to do it. What I am going to do, is it time? Oh, let's go to Scott in Bethpage before we do. When's the last time we've done a Homeward Bound?
Oh, what was the trip you were coming back
It had to
from?
be Jets week, right?
Well, it was either Jets or Seattle.
I think it was Jets because I had to go through Miami to get back from New
Yeah.
York. It's just an utter hellscape. And this story that I'm going to tell you, the latest Homeward Bound 2, Buck Reising Show edition, it's even worse. Let's go to Scott and Bethpage first. Hello, Scott.
Yeah, I thought you were going to drop me there for a second and go on to something else. I felt like the little raggedy stepchild, and I was fixing to really start squalling over here in Bethpage.
It's okay. I wouldn't do that because I love you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, and I should have never doubted it. I should have never doubted it.
There it is.
From either of you. Hey, first of all, hope you guys had a good holiday, and I ate a big turkey leg and thought of both of you.
Excellent.
The whole time. The whole time.
That's deeply concerning.
All right, Lucas, Buck, I want your thoughts on this, and probably Lebowski's too. So, on paper, doesn't Kiffin look like the better hire at Oklahoma? On paper, and also on paper, Heupel has a huge contract, especially with years involved. When you start talking about buyouts and things of that nature, it's a lot of money. You know, does Oklahoma really want to buy out a contract like that to hire a coach that just went 7-5 out of his first year out of the group of 5? I'm not sure. And also on the other side of that, with Coach, does he really want to go back to the school that fired him in 2014? Because we've all heard Doug Matthews talk about what a competitor he is. I'm on the line of I think he wants to beat them worse than he wants to coach for them. That's just my thoughts and my opinion. But anyway, hey, I love you guys. I missed you guys over the holidays. I said Buck's name over and over, several times, just because I've missed you so much. And my wife and now my wife hates y'all. All right, congratulations. All right, love you guys. Thank you.
Goodbye, Scott. It makes me laugh every time. He finds a way to make me more uncomfortable every time he does it.
He's good.
Like just the idea of him speaking my name while noshing on a turkey leg over the holiday is deeply concerning to me. That's why we love Scott. Yeah, I mean the hype. But here's the only thing, because I'm just playing devil's advocate at this point, and then we'll leave it alone. All right, because I know people are tired of it, and I don't know how realistic it is, other than Dennis Dodd put his name on a list, right? That's all that it is. But I spent all of the pandemic season hearing about how nobody had any money to buy out coaches, and then a bunch of coaches got fired, even though universities allegedly had no money. There is no buyout that is too big for pissed off and anxious college university, I guess that's redundant, university boosters, college athletics boosters. There is not a buyout that exists that people aren't willing to pay when they're already dumping tens of millions of dollars into athletic departments because they want their football coach. So I think the buyout is an ancillary factor. It can be a contributing reason to why he doesn't have interest or why Oklahoma doesn't have interest in him. Regardless, it's simply a situation to monitor. Let's do UT Sexy in Westmoreland really quick on Mark Stoops. What's up?
Hey, Buck. Westmoreland's right above Bethpage, by the way. But
love it.
Everybody's talking about Bob Stoops going to coach the bowl game. I wonder what your thoughts are about the possible future of Mark Stoops taking one of these higher-profile jobs.
It's a great call, and also call more often, not just because your name is UT Sexy, because you have a tremendous voice, so we appreciate that. Mark Stoops, I would stay at Kentucky, wouldn't you? I mean, we talked about, you brought this up, I believe, in our pre-show call, and my point about it was you can be a candidate for it, and that would get a lot of play. And if you disappointed in that job, you would be one of the many people to get promoted past the point of your competency. I think that Mark Stoops is a good football coach. I think he's great at Kentucky. He could get a statue built to him. Maybe they'll even rename godforsaken Kroger Field after Mark Stoops if he wins enough football games.
What did Ryan McGee say to us the other week? Happiness matters.
Happiness matters.
Oklahoma would be smart to give Mark Stoops a call. I think Mark Stoops would be smarter to get a lifetime contract out of Kentucky.
It depends on how much each of these coaches in their individual lives associates money with happiness, because there's a big bag waiting on the other side, and Oklahoma has a hell of a lot more finances than Kentucky does. But regardless, I think the Tackle Cats is the better opportunity for him. All right, do we have the music? We got to do an abbreviated version. I'm ready for it. I need to tell a story. I have to get this off my chest. If you're unfamiliar, this is the music to Homeward Bound. When last we did this, I was rerouted from New York to Miami to get home from that godforsaken Jets game, and the trials and trepidations of which were deeply stressful. Today it was worse. Today I got back from Boston at 6:38 a.m. Central Time after having to, in the middle of the night, book a flight home. Because in scheduling my travel back from New England this weekend, Lucas, I didn't tell you this, I've been saving it. I booked a flight for March 29th, 2022. I had walked a half hour outside of Gillette Stadium to find my Uber because the Ubers can't get to Gillette Stadium. It is 23 degrees Fahrenheit in New England at this time, and the wind chill is making it much worse. I walk a half hour to my Uber. I get in the Uber. It's an hour easily drive back to Boston where my hotel is. I figure, okay, I'll get my logistics for travel all set. I'll make sure that Delta has sent me my confirmation email, and all of a sudden I notice that they have not. So I log into my Delta app, my trusty Delta app, and I discover that I have booked passage not home for November 29th at 6 a.m., but for March 29th at 6 a.m., and that my check-in is not in 11 hours. It's in 111 days. So I have to, in the middle of the night, find passage home at 5 a.m. Eastern time to get back to Nashville today, only to discover that my flight later, because of course I'm not going to be here the rest of the week, lucky for you, only to discover that my flights, plural, from Nashville to Houston to Frankfurt, Germany, and then afterwards to Cairo, Egypt, they have been rescheduled. I am no longer flying to Houston. I am being redirected through Washington, D.C. And hope to God I can make my connection in Frankfurt, Germany. All the while, as the happy music plays, the Omicron variant looms large over the continent of Africa, which is where Egypt, if you're unfamiliar with geography, is. So I'm worried about disease. I'm worried about catching my connection in Germany. I'm worried that they're not even going to let me into Germany because countries are closing their borders right now. So Homeward Bound, we've made the first leg in this Part 2 edition. I will make the third leg coming up later this evening when I go back to that godforsaken Nashville International Airport, and the final leg back from Cairo when we do our next edition of Homeward Bound. If I'm able to get back into the country, it may be our best yet.
Homeward Bound 3, Lost in Egypt.
Mike Vrabel's press conference next. Final hour on this Monday. To be honest, it's the final hour for me this week, but Lucas and a cast of characters are going to have you covered throughout the rest of the week as well. Actually, you're off tomorrow as well, so we don't know who's going to be running the show, but we know that they will keep you entertained here on 104.5 The Zone. So we're going to finish strong today, the two of us. We're going to go out to St. Thomas Sports Park because the Titans head coach, Mike Vrabel, he's at the podium right now.
Well, I mean, there's not much mental area. I mean, we put the ball on the ground. Everybody did. Everybody that carried it, contributed to that. It can't happen. We can't turn the ball over in plus territory. We knew that we needed to finish drives with points, whether those were field goals or, obviously would love to have touchdowns. But, there were, like there's going to be in every game, mental errors when you're playing a good defense or any defense. There's just those happen. And, what can't happen are interceptions and critical mistakes and fumbles, the penalties. The field position game was, atrocious. They started on their 41-yard line. We started on our 24-yard line. So when you're trying to beat good teams, there's just certain things you can't do. And again, we have to turn the football over defensively. It's 16-13 and we're 19-13, whatever it was, and we've got a chance to intercept the ball and run until Jonnu probably makes the tackle. They threw the ball over our head and missed tackles, and there's just a lot of things in all three phases that just not going to be good enough.
Will you encourage you guys to kind of get away and clear their minds, and is the reality a lot of them will just have to stay here to rehab?
Well, the ones that are hurt and that haven't been playing, yeah, they're all going to be here. They're going to be here to get healthy, to get back. They pay me to coach. Amy pays the players to play, and that's what they'll do. They'll stay in here and get treatment until they, feel better. And then some of them that have been playing for us may choose to go somewhere. I just, I think that this is a good time for everybody to do what they feel like is best for them. From a player's perspective, obviously the ones that have to be here will be here. To try to focus on some mental recovery and some physical recovery.
Probably a similar question to what Luke asked, but Tannehill's numbers this year obviously much different than the last two. How much of that is playing with a depleted, receiver?
Well, I think Ryan has to be better. I think everybody has to be better around him. We have to be better in the middle of the pocket. We have to be better on the edges. Do we get open quicker? Be decisive, and then ball placement and decision making from the quarterback. So that's what it is. But we do need to be better throwing the football with whoever we're throwing it with, and obviously starts with protection, starts with getting open, and then the quarterback having the trust to throw to the guys. And just like that, he threw the ball to Dez, and it was a good route, good protection. Looked like a football play. And then there's other plays that we need to be better on. But again, I think that's just it's not just one guy.
Picking up on that a little bit, once upon a time, it seemed like pressure came from the edges. Quarterback was expected to step up in the pocket. Nowadays, it doesn't seem like there's anywhere to step up with the emphasis on the interior guys. Doesn't seem like Ryan's had much of a place to step up. Is that just kind of a change?
Well, there has been. There has been. I think there has been some times, where there was really good, firm pockets. And then again, you can find evidence that that's not the case. So, we'll continue to work on all aspects of our passing game, our route concepts, and the timing and the protection. So I don't think it's just you can't just say that it's just one thing over and over again. And then there were times yesterday where they got in the middle of the pocket. Ryan scrambled, got 12 yards, so he used his legs. He did a nice job there. He was looking for Dez. He didn't throw it to Dez. Dez turned and blocked the guy, and Ryan got a few extra yards. So there's things that are good there, and then obviously just not good enough overall.
Do you think there's less of a pocket to step up to in general
around
in
the
modern
league?
Football?
Because of the way defenses are constructed?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Patriots had some pretty good pockets yesterday. when they threw the ball. We didn't do a good enough job of, affecting the quarterback in the middle of the pocket. So I think that all depends on who's playing and what you're doing.
Interception, it looked like Hollister and Nick wound up at almost the same spot. Wonder if that was the case and if that should have been the case if it was.
And the one in the back of the end zone? Yeah, I mean, at that point in time, the first couple reads aren't there. So guys are trying to uncover and, we just thought we could get them on the edge. They did a nice job, couldn't progress through. And then at that point in time, guys are trying to uncover and become available to the quarterback.
Everyone's joined me in already tweeting NFL officiating as your request. But how frustrating is it to have to throw a flag on a play where a guy's not touched and crawls into the end zone?
Well, I mean, I understand where the kind of the confusion maybe or the misunderstanding came from, because you have to remember when a player gives himself up, right, whether that be at the 49 or 50-yard line or at the goal line, right? If you willingly give yourself up, as soon as any body part touches the ground, you're down. That's a player safety issue. It's been like that for a few years now when they changed the rules. So if a quarterback dives forward and willingly gives himself up, the ball is down. So we've seen some instances over the years where players, Marcus had one against Buffalo. There was one in Cincinnati. I don't even remember who the quarterback was. It was probably Carson Palmer. Dove, and then Wentz had one in Philly, and whatever it may be. But they dive, and then the knee touches the ground. And then there's also one where you're stumbling, and you haven't completed the process of the catch or whatever that may be, and you're not down. And so my guess is that was the dilemma. I would be hopeful that the process from upstairs could say, hey, he hadn't become a runner yet. He wasn't giving himself up, or he wasn't diving. He was in the process of completing the catch and was off balance. So that didn't happen. I guess that's where some of the frustration came from, was some of these that I think that the intent was to clean it up upstairs before it got to any sort of coach's challenge.
You're not happy with the two-game losing streak, the injuries, but do you like the spot you're in, 5 games left to play? And do you need to even remind your players of that, to be encouraged, you put yourself in a good position here?
Well, yeah, I mean, what I reminded them was that we were 15-5 in our last 20 road games. And that's because we had played good football. We had taken care of the football. We had run it. We had stopped the run. We were smart with penalties. And that's why you win on the road. But that didn't happen yesterday. Yeah, I don't know, Paul. Jim, I'm sorry. I don't know why, really where we're at as far as, looking too far down as far as 5 games. I think my focus is on today, trying to figure out who's going to be back, after this week, what the roster is going to look like, and really focusing on each and every guy on what they may need mentally and physically to help them, move on to the season after the bye week.
You did have in the run game yesterday important to sort of send the message that you're still going to have to respect our run game whether Derek's back there or not?
Yeah, there were a lot of 1 yard contact at 1 or 2 yards that ended up in 5 or 6 yard runs. They ran hard. We pushed some piles. We hit a couple of explosive runs. And just for obvious reasons that those get overshadowed because of the way that some of the drives ended, and whether that was a turnover or we, unfortunately missed a field goal, just not ending those drives and points.
Did somebody on the coaching staff or scouting staff have a connection with Dontrell? Is that how you guys kind of got to know him pretty well? Or, I guess why did you pluck him in particular out of all the guys out there?
Well, I think, we had remembered when he was in Cleveland and thought that he was a pretty serviceable special teams player. Had liked him, and then the opportunity came up for us to add him, and he's really done a nice job taking advantage of his opportunities.
I would guess surpassed, as far as being an offensive player, has he surpassed what you might have expected? I
try not to have a whole lot of expectations, but I would say that he would be somebody that's playing well for us right now and is going to earn opportunities as we move forward.
Indicated that Derek would be back around the guys as soon as possible. Has he been? And where is he in terms of being around and participating with things?
He's on an injury reserve program, so he comes in after, there's a lot of guys. We only have so many tables, or only have so much room in there, and so those guys are spaced out after, when the team meeting starts, those guys usually come in and start their treatment. And then guys, filter through as we, have breaks. And so, I don't see much of a reason to have those guys in meetings right now that don't have usually about a week out, we try to put them, or what we think may be a week out, we start to put them in meetings based on each and every player. But he's around the guys. I see him in the training room and, working hard to do everything he can to get back.
Up, a lot of fans think it's a logical connection to say, well, this must mean the strength and conditioning staff is not doing their jobs. I was wondering if you could speak to that and to your view of your strength and conditioning.
Yeah, that's great. I have the utmost confidence in Frank and Brian Bell and Mondre. So, and our training staff, Todd, I do. I think, and I appreciate that question, Luke. I've never suffered an injury, and again, I don't like to refer back to when I was playing, but I will in this instance. I never suffered an injury and said, "God, damn strength coach," I never said that. I never said that trainer sucks, and I know that that's not the case. Some of these things are unfortunate. Some of these injuries are just kind of part of football, but then. There is a large responsibility on the player to make sure that they're doing everything that they can to stay on top of things. The programs that we have them do go back to use Corey Davis as an example, right? He had suffered some hamstrings, early on, so then he was on a hamstring program. Or, I remember Rashawn as a young player. Maybe had an issue with his groin, and so then now he's on a groin program that they do religiously. And so a lot of this is you don't go to class. As a young player, there's no class, there's no campus that you have to be on. You come in here and you do your prehab and you do all those routines. So a lot of that is falls on the player, the responsibility, and then some of it is just unfortunate that guys get injured out there playing.
Mike, how realistic is it with all the injuries of how much healthier you can get after the bye? With 17, I think it's the current number on IR, and then you had 5 declared out for yesterday's game, and a rather lengthy injury report. How healthy can you get in a span of a week and a half?
And we'll see. We'll see where we're at on Monday. Like right now, it's guys are taking them out to run, and hopefully we'll get some guys back. I'm hopeful that there'll be some guys that are eligible to return, can return, and then we'll go from there. Some of the guys that aren't on injury reserve, we'll see where they're at, but we're going to need everybody that we can.
What kind of week did Golden have last week? It was a feeling there you just needed maybe more time.
Yeah, that's a tough task to come in here and to be able to grasp enough of the game plan and what we're doing. So I know he's working hard to learn it, what it is we're doing, and then we'll see where he is on Monday. But I know he's put a lot into studying just in the few days that he was here, and then we'll see if he can help us.
I know you said a lot of it's on the player, but how much do you guys do as a staff to help kind of coach them through some things to stay healthy, like eating well, sleeping, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean. And again, I don't mean it's all on the player. I'd say there's just some responsibility that you take, that your profession is pretty much relies on your body and your health, and we understand how important that is. So, we are doing a lot of those things. We try to coach everything that we can. Talking about routines and trying to find veteran players that have really good routines and look at their career and evaluate, a guy like Kevin Byard, like how's his career gone and what kind of routine does he have? So maybe some of the young DBs may want to try to emulate, that routine. and try to find guys that are at their position that they can maybe relate to. Those are the best teachers as far as I'm concerned.
What about the mental health side of things? It's tough to be away and to continually suffer those injuries. How much is there from that standpoint in terms of offering them some help?
Always. I mean, we're always offering them help. This is a very unforgiving business that we're always going to have to put somebody in it. They make us have 48 on game day and 11 on every snap. So we're always going to find guys, and so sometimes when you're hurt, you feel somewhat distant from the team because there's nothing you can do. You can't be out there in practice. You're on somewhat of a different schedule. So I always think that's something that you continue to check in with guys and try to stimulate them and try to find ways to help them. Whether that's Caleb Farley, Cam Batson, Briley Moore, guys that are obviously going to be done this year that have long rehabs. I think that's the critical part of it is the mental approach that they try to take day in and day out to help them recover and not get frustrated.
Coaches work every day this week, or are you
No,
shutting down your offices too
yeah.
for a few days?
No, I'll be out of here on Wednesday.
That's Mike Vrabel. Grumbling a little bit at the end. Some really good stuff there to dive into. And if you want to react to anything that you heard the head coach say about where Derrick Henry is right now and his confidence, I thought the biggest takeaway was the utmost confidence in the strength and conditioning staff for the Titans despite the rash of injuries. If you want to react to any of that, you're welcome to jump in. Last hour, 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Reising. It's 1045 The Zone. Okay. So we got a lot of good stuff from Mike Vrabel's press conference. Is he still going up there? No, he's wrapped up for the day. I know offensive assistants and defensive assistants are talking to the media as well today. And then everybody's out for the foreseeable future. Week and a half to kind of get right and get this thing back on track, to reset mentally after what has been a true slog. And more than anything, right, it's the physical health of the football team, although you cannot undervalue the mental side of things as well. And that's been a question that we've gotten a lot, whether it's you guys calling in about it or DMing me on Instagram or Twitter or just tweeting at me about when is it time to question whether the Titans strength and conditioning staff, training staff, are doing their job. And Mike Vrabel, I think it was a well-positioned question by our buddy Luke Worsham to say, hey, Mike, there's a lot of fans asking about this. We don't know what your process is. Can you kind of speak to that at this point? And this is Coach.
That's great. I have the utmost confidence in Frank and Brian Bell and Mondre. So, and, you know, our training staff, Todd, like I do. I think, and I appreciate that question, Luke. I've never suffered an injury, and again, I don't like to refer back to when I was playing, but I will in this instance. I never suffered an injury and said, God, damn strength coach. You know, I never said that. I never said that trainer sucks, and I know that that's not the case. You know, some of these things are unfortunate. You know, some of these injuries are just kind of part of football, but then you know, there is a large responsibility on the player to make sure that they're doing everything that they can to stay on top of things. The programs that we have them do, go back to use Corey Davis as an example, right? He had suffered some hamstrings, you know, early on, so then he was on a hamstring program. Or, you know, I remember Rashawn as a young player. Maybe had an issue with his groin, and so then now he's on a groin program that they do religiously. And so a lot of this is you know, you don't go to class. You know, as a young player, there's no class, there's no campus that you have to be on. You come in here and you do, you know, your prehab and you do all those routines. So a lot of that is falls on the player, the responsibility, and then some of it is just unfortunate that, you know, guys get injured out there playing.
That's Mike Vrabel speaking to the media not 5 minutes ago. So the situation about the training staff, I mean, I don't think that any coach, Mike Vrabel or otherwise, would come out and say, yeah, our training staff sucks. They are the reason why we have dressed 86 players, a new NFL record in the last almost 3 decades of NFL football, and really a number that only a couple of teams have seen in entire seasons, much less through 12 weeks. So I think that is but I do think that he appreciated the opportunity to kind of address that, because that's something, you know, without institutional knowledge of how specifically Todd Torricelli, who's the head trainer for the Tennessee Titans, how Todd does his job, how Frank Perrano and Brian Bell, the strength staff, and the rest of their staff, how they do their job compared to other guys in the league. I don't necessarily think it's a fair assessment for somebody like me, for example, to give you. But when Mike kind of walks you through how they approach it with a little more detail than you otherwise have, I think maybe it alleviates some concerns. Maybe it doesn't. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Bob in Smyrna up next on 104.5 The Zone. Hello, Bob.
Hey, Buck. My question is more about how they evaluate people for the draft and for free agent pickups. The last couple of years, we've drafted a lot of people that haven't been able to perform. I mean, Caleb Farley was a guy that has had a lot of injury problems. And then the free agency pickups, some of them haven't been too good. Julio Jones has hardly played at all. And he had a lot of injury problems the last couple of years in Atlanta. So I'm concerned about that. And then the last couple of drafts have been pretty miserable. Isaiah Wilson and Radance and Caleb Farley. It's just been a lot of mistakes, I think, that have put us in the place where we're up to 84, 85 players because of all these injuries.
Thanks for the call, Bob. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you brought that up, Bob, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. His name's Moose. He's a cameraman in New England. I love Moose. He came here a couple of years ago for joint training camp practices between the Patriots and the Titans, and we've kept up since then. So I saw Moose on the sideline. We were talking about that because and Moose, who has covered the Patriots for a long, long time for local television, basically said, yeah, John got that while he was here. He got that while he was working under Bill Belichick. They love to do that kind of stuff. And Bill Belichick famously does not have a stellar draft record, whether it's skill position players specifically they struggle with. Now, Christian Barmore and Mac Jones, they look like studs, the first and second round pick of the Patriots this most recent draft. But, I mean, Jeffrey Simmons was that, right? You're I don't want to say bargain hunting, but kind of, for a player who's maybe got some stuff in the background, but that's been some time removed when he was a high schooler, a younger person, and then he tears his ACL in the draft process and he falls to 19 and you're licking your lips because you want him bad. Caleb Farley had that same conversation around him, right? Where people are talking about him potentially as the most talented corner in this draft, and he falls to the Titans at 22 was the Caleb Farley selection, I believe, this year. 22 or 24. I can't recall off the top of my head. I believe it was 22. But, and to say the last two drafts have not worked out in your favor. Now, you do have Christian Fulton to account for that. You have Chris Jackson, who I think has been a solid player, but not a day-in, day-out starter. Laurel Murchison, meh. And Darrington Evans, who I don't think they think much of at all as far as the coaching staff is concerned. I think that's the 2020 version of Des Fitzpatrick. And the difference is at least Des Fitzpatrick is available. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. And there's no question that having 4 draft picks, if you'll recall back to, I believe it was 2018 with Harold Landry and Rashaan Evans and Dane Cruikshank and Luke Falk, where you're trading up for guys, you're sacrificing draft capital, and you're making 4 picks. 2 of them end up being starters, and Cruikshank has played, but, you do set yourself back as far as depth is concerned, which comes up a lot with this team. So their process is, Bob, that they're looking for places where they can get a deal. Julio Jones included in that. Bud Dupree, the same, although Bud still got top-of-market money because ACLs are a lot more routine. I think you have to take each injury from an individual standpoint. And, the book is still out on Caleb Farley, but, the 2019 or the 2020 draft class, outside of Christian Fulton, it's not ideal. Darrington. It's good that I'm going to get to talk to him because it's the only day for me to talk to people this week. Hello, buddy.
What's going on? Quick point of interest. I'm going to do a little housekeeping real quick. People, this week we will have a substitute teacher. I need you to act accordingly.
Yes.
Will Bowden, I listened to him on Friday night for Lucas. Lucas, he does a great job. This is not Buck Reising that we will be talking to this week. So make sure you keep your questions and your comments to Will Bowden and not Buck Reising. Please be respectful while the teacher is away for the week. That's it for the housekeeping. Now, my point. I've been saying this about Ryan Tannehill, and I want to make an apology now. I called him Baker Mayfield. At least when Baker Mayfield has 200 yards of rushing, he still wins the game. This guy can't even do it. 93 yards of passing, will not do it. And I don't just blame him. I also blame the play calling. He's terrible. That has to stop. Now, my question for you, Mr. Buck, do you think with some of these players that's out, like a David Long, do you think this just kind of increases his value to seeing how much he's worth? Because he's an tackling machine, and I like his effort. And for those people who keep talking about injuries, this is bothering me. A lot of these injuries are coming because players are making so much money, and they become divas. They don't put the same type of effort into their work no more. So when they get a cramp, they have a torn muscle. So they're out. They get on their pay regardless. So a lot of players do think like that. You still have some war warriors, and they're going to be out there. But for the most part, they're a little soft now. They don't practice 2 days. The regimen's not the same. So I just want to leave it on that. But I hope you have a great time. I hope you have safe travels. Lucas, I know you're going to be on the break. I hope you have a good time. Come back refreshed. Come back better. I would say tighten up, but the way Ryan Tannehill's the quarterback, just keep being mediocre. Y'all have a good one.
He's going to take our jobs. I swear to God. There's so many. The man has so many takes. Where to even begin? The mailing it in. Sometimes, right? Like I heard a lot about Jadeveon Clowney in that way, that he probably shut it down before it was necessary. So you can take it individual cases, but that's just a blanket accusation that Darrington is lobbing out there about all professional athletes.
I think Clowney wanted to shut it down last night, chasing Lamar Jackson.
Oh my God, he looked
hours.
Miserable. Miserable.
So funny. He was so frustrated.
I know that gave Titans fans great joy to watch Jadeveon Clowney just be right there, and then nothing. And Lamar Jackson touchdown, Mark Andrews, even though he was throwing 4 interceptions in the middle of that game. Yeah, I think that the injury, I don't know how healthy you can get in a week and a half, right? Because it's a lot. It's a lot of players. But the one question that we've been asked a lot, and I do want to play this before we go back to the phones and wrap things up for the day. Derrick Henry, I've gotten a lot of questions about him and really about a lot of these injured players. Where are they right now? And the answer is they're here. They're at St. Thomas Sports Park. But Mike Vrabel, specifically about Derrick and the other injured guys, I thought shed good light on what their day-to-day looks like at this point.
He's on an injured reserve program, so he comes in after, there's a lot of guys. We only have so many tables, we only have so much room in there, and so those guys are spaced out after, when the team meeting starts, those guys usually come in and start their treatment, and then guys, filter through as we, have breaks, and so I don't see much of a reason to have those guys in meetings right now that don't have usually about a week out we try to put them, or what we think may be a week out, we start to put them in meetings based on each and every player. But he's around the guys. I see him in the training room and, working hard to do everything he can to get back.
So that's the latest on Derrick Henry. I don't know if that alleviates your concerns or answers the questions, but that's what you're getting. Get James. James will be the last caller of the day. James is in Smyrna. What's up, buddy?
Buck, enjoy your show.
Thank you.
And I have a different take. Maybe someone's mentioned it, but I'm not ready to put this on the training staff and the conditioning staff. I'm sure they do the standard things that training staff and conditioning staffs do around the league. But have you ever heard of you reap what you sow?
Sure. And
maybe the Titans, they've created this image of being the bully of the NFL, and they're tough and smash mouth, and so teams know when they play the Titans, they're going to have a physical game.
Sure.
So they may be bringing their A game physicality, and they're really popping the Titans real hard. And creating some of these injury situations.
I appreciate that call, James, because, I think here's what I'll say. I noticed Derrick getting a hit a lot harder this year. Like, there were moments when he'd get second level against the Jets, for example, and they would find ways to wrap him up so fast in ways that you're not accustomed to seeing Derrick Henry taken down that way. I'm not saying that it's something that Derrick's doing or a step that Derrick's lost or anything like that, but I don't completely discount that as a theory. And I would say that, NFL teams can have it or not have it on any given week, and I don't know how much more you're getting up for a game against the Titans as opposed to the Patriots or the Chiefs or the Browns or whomever, right? But with a physical style of play like that, you're the one more often doing the punishing as opposed to the defenders. Something to keep in mind. Although you did see Derrick Henry taking a lot harder hits this year. When we come back, this is my only show for the week, so we'll do the only poll segment that I'll be here for. And I don't know what everybody else is doing, but for us, that's next. Lucas was scared to play this song. He asked me if this was culturally insensitive. I said no, but I'm a very gentrified version of an Egyptian anymore, so maybe I'm not the best sample size. Welcome back.
Great song.
It is a great song. I am returning to the land of my ancestors tonight, in fact. I'm going to hit the road at 6:45, and I've only just gotten home, but I'm excited to go. I'll be excited once I get there. I think the 20 hours there and 20 hours back flight element of things is mentally jacking with me, especially off a road game in the North Korea of professional football, Foxborough, Massachusetts. But I'm excited. I'm decided. I can't decide whether I should bring something back, some papyrus for the studio, but I don't want somebody's toenail clippings to end up on it or something like that. So.
Yeah, bring me something back.
Bring you something back? So not for everybody, but for you.
Yeah, like some Egyptian, a nice Egyptian beverage or some couscous,
You want me to get you want me to get stopped at customs because you wanted some kind of sleepy time tea.
I think if it's in a check bag, you're good.
All right, very good. I will risk life and limb while having to fight against the Omicron variant shutting down half of the world while I'm getting ready to do international travel, which is just I'm not worried about getting there. I'm worried about getting back. So maybe this will end up being the Lucas Panzica show, and you guys will finally get what you have wanted so desperately. Before we do polls, give me a Panzica Nashville SC update because I heard they choked last night.
Last one of the season. Fell short of the conference final for a second consecutive year. 1-1, losing in penalty kicks to Philadelphia Union. It was a tough shootout. They didn't convert one. Tough way to end a really good season that sets up nicely for new stadium opening in May 1st. Also, by the way, against Philadelphia Union, who they crashed out against last night. But Hani Mukhtar might still win MVP. He scored the goal to put them in front, but set-piece defending did them in all year long. It did them in last night, conceding a corner kick goal in stoppage time of the first half. But all things considered, it was a fun season, and they've really built a foundation for moving forward, and they're pretty much done at Nissan Stadium.
Well, and as you mentioned, ahead of schedule on their new stadium, which is going to be really, really cool to see. Hani Mukhtar is from Germany, correct?
He's from Germany. He is dual citizen. He's recently announced that his national allegiance will be Saudi Arabia, I believe.
Okay. I was just going to say, I have an uncle, Hanny. Anyway. Polls.
Zoinks like hey, Scoop.
Yes.
Stop the count. Stop the count. Yeah. The polls have closed. The votes are in. It's time for a poll update, Scoop. A poll update? Yeah. Zoinks, Scoop. Here's Buck Reising Show daily correspondent Lucas Panzica. Lucas Panzica? Yeah.
It's the dumbest one we have. Oh, no, you ruined it. With the club music.
Just can't not picture Rhett alone in his studio going back and forth with himself. I love it.
He's a full-on schizophrenic.
Have you ever seen a fan base so excited for a bye week? 81% say no.
Yeah. I've never seen a fan base in any sport clamoring for a bye as badly as the Tennessee Titans fans are this week. But I understand you have broken the record for the number of players that have dressed for you this season. The time has come to rest.
I will say, got to get healthy because when you come out of the bye week, 3 games in 12 days.
Yeah, there is that because you will have, and I think the Niners are looking better. I think the Steelers look washed with Big Ben, but that defense is still good enough to cause you some problems, given that your problems are very turnover-centric at this point in time. So it'll hit you hard in the face, and I think by the time we all get back, me in particular, I'm going to be ready. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for 5 days. I don't know if I've ever, as a professional, not worked for 5 days.
What is Ryan Tannehill's ceiling with the Titans? Taylor says, there's your ceiling, Buck, with the gif of the Titans celebrating what looks like a Madden 22 Super Bowl. Brandon says, for the first time, I'm really starting to wonder. AJ says, what ceiling? And several replies saying basically the 2020 season is Ryan Tannehill's ceiling.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the ceiling is the roof. Those were my favorite responses. Thank you, Michael Jordan. I mean, the ceiling is the Super Bowl as long as there is somebody to help him, somebody that's not going to fumble in the 2-minute drill when you're trailing 13-6, somebody who's not going to cough up the football because he doesn't, quote, feel the defender alongside of him because he thinks he's going to pull away. All right, Deontay. Either way, Ryan Tannehill needs more help. And if he doesn't get it, what you're watching and what you have seen from him in Miami when he didn't have enough help is the experience that you're going to get moving forward.
Who is the biggest threat to the Titans in the AFC this week? 48% say the Patriots, 24% Ravens, 21% Chiefs, 7% say Bills.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the Patriots are the right answer. They look the scariest, and you had a pretty good game plan to push them around yesterday.
Speaking of injuries, by the way, notification, breaking news, Christian McCaffrey done for the year.
Oh, my God.
What? Why do you think Lincoln Riley is taking the USC job? Harry Douglas chimes in, says, you know why, Buck? Competition going to get steeper in the SEC.
Why did you say competition that way?
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
It happens. Yes, Harry knows what we all know, that Lincoln Riley is a coward and he wants to cruise in the Pac-12 and not face the big boys in the SEC.
Josh says, better chance of making the playoffs and keeping your job.
Yeah, listen, I mean, cowardice or job security. One could argue both.
Is there any reason for Vols fans to worry about Josh Heupel going to Oklahoma yet? 63% say no, 37% say yes. Football and other F words say, I just voted yes for chaos.
Well, Zach Lyons, who runs the Football and Other F Words account, is a perpetual violence chaos creator.
And then Sam Smith says, Buck, buddy, I know you're new here, but this is Tennessee. Always have the cup on.
That is the correct answer to the question. And that will conclude the poll questions. Are you guys going to do polls this week?
Maybe we'll take a break from the polls.
Okay, no polls for the rest of the week, I guess.
We'll give our listening audience in the Twitter sphere a break from the polls.
I think that they very much enjoy Rhett Bryan's impression of Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, but what can I do about it? I love you all. I will talk to you on Monday, next Monday, when I will return, hopefully, back from the Middle East. I'm sure I will tweet because I can't stay off my phone if I'm not going to be working. So we will be in communication in some form or fashion. Lucas will make sure that everything stays on track, but not tomorrow or the next day because he's out. See ya.